Welcome to another episode of Property Talk with Monica. I discuss and invite guests to discuss with me all things property in New Zealand. I'm also the Managing Director of Uno Property Management. We specialize in residential property management. Now with us today, again, is our lovely Laura from Lighthouse Financials. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. What are we talking about today? Today is a little bit more positive. We're talking about buying opportunities in a down market. I always want to buy more, but the lending is actually quite tough. Tell us about what some of your clients are doing. Are they taking advantage of buying things at 50% discount? I wish. What are you seeing in the marketplace right now?
We're definitely seeing a lot of activity. There's this narrative in the media that nobody's buying and the market's stagnant, but I don't necessarily agree with that. And
Good.
I think if it's something that you've been thinking of doing, buying your first property, your first investment property, your next investment property, definitely take advantage of the fact that we are in a bit of a down market. It's definitely being dubbed a buyer's market, and there are certainly some really good opportunities out there for sort of buying low.
Yeah. So I saw the notes here. 1 in 8 Auckland properties that are on the market were bought in the boom. And these people, if they had to sell, can't carry or service the mortgage, they would lose money if they sell now, right?
Definitely, and we are kind of seeing that quite a bit in the market, that some people are in a position where they're selling before they're forced to sell. Mortgagee sales are kind of similar to what they were in 2020 and 2019, so it's not, we're not in a critical position, but some people are trying to get ahead and they're selling before they're forced to sell, which for a prospective buyer is a really good opportunity because they hold a lot more negotiating power. People are accepting that, okay, we bought in the height of the boom when the market was really high and prices were quite inflated, and unfortunately we are going to have to sell for a bit of a loss. On the flip side, that is really beneficial for people that are looking to buy, and as I say, they've got a lot more negotiating power.
What kind of stunning deals have you come across? Have you seen any lately without telling us?
So I was actually talking to a client of mine yesterday who he only bought an investment property maybe about 2 or 3 months ago, and thought that he'd kind of capped himself out on equity and servicing and what have you, and then within about 2 or 3 weeks of settling the last one, he came back to me and said, I've come across this opportunity, can we make it work? The house was on, it was sold by auction and the sellers wanted $530,000 for it. It sold at auction for $425,000.
To him?
No, to a buyer that then just vanished off the face of the earth. What has happened to him since then is not my business, but obviously that sale fell through, so the property then went back on, it didn't even get back to the market. The agent that had sold him the previous investment approached him and said, would you be interested in this opportunity? My client took a punt and was offered $398,000 for the house, and they accepted it there and then. So they initially started a couple of weeks ago wanting $530,000, and within the space of a couple of weeks they were willing to take $398,000.
Where is this house?
Yeah.
What? No, seriously.
It's in T-Rail.
What's that?
So I don't actually know. my geography of New Zealand is not great, but all I know is a very good buy. And on another benefit for him is that house is going to be rented for $560 a week.
Well, hugely positive. Neutral.
Definitely positive, but again, just real good opportunities. One thing I would always say is engage the professionals. So look to use a buyer's agent maybe. They do charge you a bit of a fee, but they are privy to properties before they are released to the market, which is going to give you a real kind of good one step ahead. Talk to a mortgage advisor and get your pre-approval in place, even if you haven't found anything that you're specifically wanting to make an offer on. If it's something that you're thinking of doing, just by having that pre-approval in place allows you to get one step ahead, condition for shorter finance periods, and that's going to be way more attractive in your offer to the vendor than someone that has to condition for 10 or 15 working days.
You make money when you buy, guys.
A really good buying opportunity in a down market would be to look at new builds.
New builds? Really?
Yeah. So if you think about, if you're buying off the plan, so you settle on a purchase price today of $750,000. That property is not going to be built for another 9-12 months time, and we would hope in that time that the market has picked up and what the property is worth come settlement in a year's time is hopefully going to be more than what you've paid for it today, and that's just instant equity, right? So definitely something to consider, I think.
But a lot of people actually, I'm sorry to contradict you on that one, a lot of people actually, by doing that, because the market has come down so dramatically and so rapidly, they actually got hurt from that process. Did you ever need to get someone out of a jam like that?
Yeah, good point. There were a few occasions where someone had bought for
900,000.
Yeah, and then when they come to settle it, the bank wants their final valuation and it's only worth 850, and they've got to bridge that gap somehow.
Yeah.
If you're a first-time buyer, then that's definitely going to be a bit of a pickle for you. You're probably not going to have much, any more savings left up from the deposit that you initially paid.
Yeah.
We didn't see it that often, to be honest, but there definitely were a few occasions, and you make it work.
Yeah.
Whether that
one way or another.
Yeah, yeah. And there is a solution to everything. That we did have a client. It wasn't one of mine, thankfully, but I know one of my colleagues had a lot of sleepless nights, and they had considered every scenario to get this girl out of the pickle. She was short of about 30,000, I think. Which for her was a significant amount of money being a first-time buyer. But if you're an investor and you've got 2 or 3 properties with equity in them, or you've got other kind of assets, then there's probably an out there somewhere. But I don't think we're going to see the same kind of drop in the markets in the next year or 2 that we have seen already.
Yeah, I do want to talk more about new builds. Not so much buying off the plan, but the huge supply that we have in the marketplace right now. Even they try to flood the rental market with new build as well, and there are a lot of new build that's still sitting on the market. I think there are potentially a lot of deals to be had in new build. And there are many advantages, which I have actually covered in my ebook for my followers. You know what I'm talking about. Taking advantage of new build, there are maintenance and 12 months liability period for the developers. There are lots of advantages over older properties, and potentially they have better deals, I reckon. Do you see that?
I could sit and sing the praises of new builds all day. From a lending perspective, so you as an investor, as a borrower, there are probably more benefits to a new build than there are existing properties.
Let's do 80%.
Some banks will do it with 15, so 85%. So 15% deposits for investors with some banks. The interest deductibility, so a new build properties are interest deductible, whereas existing properties that is being phased back in. Depending on the region, I guess you could argue that the rents on new builds do attract. You can kind of attract a bit of a higher rent because a lot of the new builds are going up in those kind of suburban areas where they're attracting young professionals who are willing to pay a bit more. We're seeing new builds in Auckland renting for sort of $700 a week, and you're only paying $720 to buy it. There is also a lot of stock on the market at the moment that was, it might be that there's only 1 or 2 units of a development that's left that hasn't been sold, and the developers are just willing to let that go.
Developer clearance.
Exactly, because they just want to wrap that project up and move on to the next one. You need to have a certain amount of pre-sales before you can complete your...
You're getting me excited.
So we're definitely seeing a lot of developments of maybe sort of 50, 60 houses where there's just a few that are left that haven't sold, and there's some real bargains out there. We're looking at a development in Henderson, and some of them are going for $520.
I know, I've seen them. I think it's the same development. Okay, Laura, with so many opportunities now in the marketplace, and for someone who's looking at taking advantage of this great timing to add some properties to their portfolio, what is your advice for them?
I would say get rid of the emotional attachment. If you're buying an investment property, it doesn't have to be your dream home in an area or location that makes sense to you. If the numbers make sense, if you can find it for a really good purchase price and a good rental yield, that's more important than, do I want to live in this house? Does it have the garden that I want? Is it near the train line that I use to get to work? None of that matters. You have to look at it from more of a business perspective and do the numbers make sense? And again, you have to be realistic, right? Some people get to a point where they can only be looking around sort of that $400,000 or $500,000 price point because they've got existing properties that they own and quite a lot of debt to service. think about ways that you can buy cheap and increase the rental yield or increase the value of the property. There's strategies out there where you can buy sort of for around that $400 or $500 price point, reconfigure the home slightly. So if you look at adding like an outside dwelling, a second dwelling, add in extra bedrooms, that can significantly increase the rental return, and you know, just the overall value of the house as well.
Yes. So there are different strategies. You can, you know, turn 2 to 3 bedrooms, or adding, you know, wasn't it just a release of new regulation, or is it proposed? Or is it in fact where if you put a 30 square meter minor property, then you don't need a resource consent?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you can, you know, the cost of those things don't need to be huge.
Yeah.
You can put on like a small dwelling or a tiny home for. Okay, it might cost you like $100,000, but in the long run, that covers all of your consents, transportation, all of that, and think about the bigger picture. What does that mean for the long-term value? You know, some people rent those out for like $400 or $500 a week.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, which is not to be sniffed at. So
no, it will help greatly with servicing when they're, you know, from a borrowing perspective, will be, you know, definitely adding to the right side of the equation.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so if someone have the patience and buy low, and then maybe even increase the yield even more, then this can potentially be a stunning deal for them then.
Yeah. And as I say, it's getting away from that. What are you looking for a home that you would want to live in compared to a house that is, you know, a good buy? The numbers make sense, and it might not tick all of your boxes.
Yeah.
But
all right, so we'll wrap this up. Do you have any parting advice for us for the bargain hunters out there? What's your top 3 advice?
Yeah, I would say go back and look at listings of properties that have been on the market for a while. Don't just track new releases. If the property's been on the market for a while, the chances are the sellers are probably going to be more inclined to take a lower price because they just want the sale. We're seeing a lot of people kind of moving overseas. They're in a position where they've already committed to rents or buying houses elsewhere, and again, they just need that quick sale because they've got rents to service in the UK or Australia and a rent to service in New Zealand. So
clean offer.
Talk to the professionals, as I say, get that one step ahead, get your pre-approvals in place, get an idea of what you can buy for, what those kind of rental returns need to be in order to service the mortgage, and I guess just don't be afraid to just take a bit of a risk, right? We're in this environment, rates are high, yes, but we're probably at that sweet spot where rates are probably as high as they're going to go. I'll take a punt on saying that. I don't think we're going to see them go much higher, but there will be that.
You know this is recorded.
If you can come back and tell me in 6 months' time. But I think we're at that sweet spot where the rates are probably as high as they're going to go. Values are as low as they're probably going to be coming. So
I agree.
Yeah, take advantage of that and get in before the market flips.
If you can buy now. That's what we're saying. Thank you.